So you're taking the first few correspondence. Okay, welcome everybody. I'll call this meeting of the 22nd day of February, or regular council meeting, to order. So we'll start with the adoption of the agenda. Take a motion for that. Councilor Warwa, thank you. Is there any additions? Deletions? Seeing none, all is in favor? Carried, thank you. Looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councilor Waters, thank you. Any errors or additions? Okay, all is in favor? Carried, thank you. First up is correspondence, and Phil's going to take the first few here. So we're going to, a letter from the Vegreville Centennial Library.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a letter dated today, February 22nd, 2021, from the Vegreville Centennial Library. Dear Mayor and Council, attached is a letter to the Town of Vegreville Library Board has sent our MLA Jackie Armstrong Humminguk, requesting that easing library restrictions be considered in step 2 of the province's path forward plan. It is the board's hope that Town Council will show their support, their request, by also contacting our MLA. Thank you for attention in this manner. Donna Williams, Library Manager.
Okay, I'll take the motion for the letter first. Councilor Lemko, thank you very much. So a motion to receive and file a letter. Okay, has everybody had a chance to read this? Well, I'll say that I do believe that it does make sense. They're looking for banquet halls and other places of business to open where there's a lot more contact than what would be at the library. The library is stage 3 compared to some of the openings in stage 2. So myself personally, I don't see why we wouldn't support this letter to try to get some people with the right distancing and 15% of the capacity of the library back into the library. What are your guys' thoughts? Councillor Barry, you go first.
Yeah, I would support it. I don't see where there's a lot of difference between entering the library or entering any business right now, to tell you the truth. I mean, there's a lot of touch items in any store. So I don't think there's that big a problem. The protocols that they're talking about putting in place sound like they're pretty good. And I think that they've been doing a great job up to date. And I would certainly support it. And I want to bring this up at Northern Lights this weekend for our meeting there as well, that maybe they should be putting a letter in of support as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lemko.
Yes, at the last board meeting, we talked about the letter and the fact that the safety measures we put into place are quite good compared to the other ones we talk about, as in stores and restaurants and all that. We feel that waiting for step 3 is probably quite far away, seeing how the restrictions are going. And I do believe there are other communities that have libraries like ours that are also going to councils to ask for letters of support to move this forward. So I would support this from our perspective. And I do, as a member of the library board, I know that the restrictions that and the safety measures we put into place and the operation of the library will adhere to all the policies here. So I support it.
Okay. So, Councillor Rudick.
I think the one thing that isn't mentioned potentially in the letter that I think is also important to note, that the library is one of the few places of common access in the community that allows for free Wi-Fi as well as printing and computer services, which for a lot of people is their only way to be able to access that. So in addition to being able to make sure that people are able to use the facility safely, I think that's also an important reason why we would want to support the opening of the library. in a safe, accessible way.
Good point. And we all know that there's lots of people that use the library just for those purposes. And to leave the library to stage 3, just like it was a casino, just doesn't seem right. A lot more touch points in a casino. So we'll take all those in favor of receiving file first. And now we'll need a motion to support the support letter. Councilor Lemke, you make that motion? Is there anybody else, any more discussion? And okay, all those in favor? Thank you. And I know the chamber has been requested to get on board here too, and some other chambers in the province have gone ahead and are matching their letters with their municipalities. So thank you. Hey, Phil, next we got a letter from Vegreville Transportation Services Society.
This is a letter dated February 18th, 2021 to Dear Mayor McPhee and Town Council. We would like to thank Council for the invitation and opportunity to discuss VTSS as a whole and the need for transportation within our community. As a follow-up to the discussion on January 25th, 2021, we would like to extend the invitation of having a member of Town Council join our board. Under normal circumstances, the board meets once a month with meetings lasting approximately 1 hour. As a major contributor to VTSS, we feel that having a member of Town Council on our board would allow for free flow of information and communication. Once again, VTSS wishes to express our heartfelt gratitude for the support. Transportation services in the Vegreville area are truly a community service, built by community partners and serving both urban and rural communities. You can take great pride in your part of the development of this program. We look forward to your response. Elaine Kucher, Program Coordinator.
Take a motion for the letter. Councilor Wawa, thank you. Seeing how we've already gone ahead and put a motion in of creating a new board member and taking it on. So anybody else want to comment on the letter? Seeing none, all is in favor of receiving file? Thank you. Next up, we have the request from Minister Madu, Minister of Justice and the Solicitor General.
Your Worship, I think Councillor Rudick had her hand up for.
Sorry, I will start with her and then Sandra, I'll get to you. Okay, Councillor Rudick.
I wonder if we're maybe gesturing for the same reason. I think maybe we were making a motion to recommend that a councillor be appointed to that board.
I thought we already did that. Did we not already go through that?
I don't know that we did an official motion of council.
Oh,
There was discussion, there was no
Yeah, we
official
just-
motion, and this motion will also name the counselor on the board.
well, forgive me. I thought our last meeting that we had talked about that. Okay, sorry. So Councillor Rudick, you are making the motion?
I would be happy to make that motion to
Thank you.
recommend the appointment of Councillor Berry to that board.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Great. Thank you for catching me on that. I don't know why I took it for granted that we already had done that. Okay, Phil, go ahead and you don't have to read this whole letter, Phil, about what their ask is from the Minister of Justice, just about what our reply was to it.
Okay, so this is a letter of February 28th, Dear Mayor McPhee, and it's from the Justice and Solicitor General. And what they're doing is they're outlining the province's Fair Deal panel that contained a number of recommendations to strengthen the province's voice in the Confederation. He goes on to discuss about the rural contract policing, municipal police service agreements. And in the end, we asked that the requested information be provided by February 26, 2021. Understand the suggested timeline may be a challenge. If this is the case, Secretariat and the PWC would be happy to request the data from the RCMP with your permission. So this is a letter they're requesting cost breakdowns of rural municipal policing and transportation, all the good things that go with this report.
Okay, we'll take a motion on receive and file this letter. Councilor Barry, thank you. So CAO Cliff Craig, we had a conversation, and as busy as we are right now for us to research all this information, we just went ahead and gave them permission to contact the RCMP directly and let them source the information, which you think the province would already have. Go ahead, Paul Casey.
CAO Craig also sent the Solicitor General copies of the last 2 years' invoices from the RCMP, from which they can gather some of the information.
Okay. So I think that we've all been, the last couple of seminars that were put on by AUMA regarding policing and where we're at, I think we all get a fairly, or at least we all have a fairly good idea of direction that the province is looking at here. So, I mean, they can gain access to that information if they want. I mean, it's everything that we've seen so far, it was more costly, and I don't know how effective it would be, but anybody else want to comment on this letter that we received? Go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
I just wanted to reiterate the extensive list of requests that Minister Madu has asked for in this letter is onerous. It's an additional asking of information, many of which they have access to themselves. So I appreciate that you've punted the ball back to them and they can deal with it that way. But I think it's really important that all municipalities of all sizes in Alberta understand whether you're currently paying for policing services or you will be. There's no guarantee with this new focus that the province has that we would have any more additional police forces or any additional say. The research shows additional cost, less efficiency, and a lot of unknowns. So I just feel like this is a really onerous list of to-dos for municipalities across the province. And I'm glad that we answered the way that we did, gave the ball back to them.
Well, if anybody's, well, I'm pretty sure almost all of us have been on those webinars with AUMA, and we sort of realize that there is a different model of policing from the province is not going to be any cheaper and is not going to achieve anything more. Maybe we can get the Justice Department to help us by putting people in jail, but that's my opinion, sorry. But for those, anybody else have a comment on the receive and file of this letter? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. One more, Phil.
All right, thank you again. This is another letter from Alberta's Justice and Solicitor General addressed to yourself. Thank you for your letter dated November 13, 2020 regarding repeat offenders in your community. I appreciate the opportunity to respond to your concerns. Minister Madu writes, talking about the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and how it guarantees every accused person the right not to be denied reasonable bail without just cause. And in his letter regarding repeat offenders, the government of Alberta has further committed to developing a policy that deals specifically with repeat offenders in order to ensure they are dealt with consistently and effectively across the entire system. He addresses some other actions that the government of Alberta is designed to ensure Albertans feel safe, feel their justice system protects them. Into the integration of peace officers to respond to a wider range of calls and to assist the RCMP. And that includes the 400 Alberta peace officers in Fish and Wildlife, Alberta Sheriff's Branch, Vehicle Enforcement, and the Rapid Rural Alberta Provincial Integrated Defense Response Unit. They're increasing the budget for Alberta law enforcement response teams, ALERT, up to $50 million over the next 4 years to address organized and serious crime, including gang violence, drug trafficking, child pornography, stalking, and domestic violence. Hiring 50 new Crown prosecutors and support staff to enhance the functionality of our criminal justice system. Funding 4,000 addiction treatment spaces over the next 4 years as a step forward to addressing addictions. Investing up to $20 million over 4 years to expand drug treatment courts in 5 additional sites across the province, including Lethbridge, Red Deer, and Medicine Hat. And then he finishes off talking about victims of crime, including communities, and is talking about the new community impact statement program of victim services branch that his ministry has established. This program will enable a representative of a community to submit a statement to the court for consideration at the sentencing of an accused person. And that is from Casey Madu, the Minister of Justice and Solicitor General.
Okay, we'll start off with a motion to receive and file this letter. Councillor Broadjack, thank you. First comment will go to Councillor Warwick.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say when this letter first came in, I did commit that I was going to gather some additional information and do think that we should proceed back with a little bit of a follow-up letter. I will definitely have that for you this week. I was a little bit delayed with some of it, but I was looking through some parts of it, and I still think it warrants us going back to them, particularly because we had a very specific ask, and we weren't suggesting a one-stop fix. We were asking to work together, and this is a little bit of a, in my opinion, I'm sorry, but a little bit of a, hey, here's what we've done, and we didn't really answer your question. And I would like to talk to them a little bit more about those. There's some areas that they broke down that I'm sorry, they are provincial. Not everything is federal. That's why we have 2 levels of court system. And quite frankly, we can't blame everything on the federal court system. I know it has its own problems, but we have problems and backlogs. And we were never suggesting, and that's my one concern with the letter, is there's a suggestion that we were kind of an overall reference to the fact that we were asking them to in some way not follow the regulations and grant people bail. We've never said that. And that needs to be addressed. Nobody is ever suggesting that they should in some way not follow regulations. What we're talking about is giving us options that might allow us as a municipality to address them. And a lot of the programs that they have put forward, I'm sorry, but they're not geared to our size of a municipality either. So I definitely am committed to still getting you information on that. And I think that part of it has to be them providing a little bit more of the ask if they want us to be able to provide these victims or community impact statements. I think that's a good idea. And I think that's one thing that we should say to them. Great, you told us about it, now tell us how. And I'd like to see us putting those forward each opportunity we get. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Broadjack.
I'd like also to have more conversation regarding the community impact statement. They're saying that one person in the community would be a representative. Would that be the same person all the time? But definitely, we definitely need to look into that, to start doing that, to make sure that our community is heard and how this is impacting our community.
Okay, so Councillor Waters, sorry.
Yeah, so I know we're frustrated seeing the same people time and again in jail, out of jail, the repeat offenders. Can only imagine the frustration of our RCMP. They're seeing the same thing, for lack of a better term, the catch and release. And the community impact statement program did really grab me there. That would be important. And hopefully it's not one of those programs that it's introduced, but not followed up. So as Councillor Wara and Councillor Brodziak have said, it would be nice to have more information on that. Like the other programs are great as well, the addiction counseling and all of that. And that would help greatly, but to help our community itself, just to follow up with the impact statement program, I'd be curious to see how that rolls out.
I can let you all know right now that Director Rowe and myself have been working on this, and we're going to meet tomorrow with ourselves, Phil and myself, and we're trying to find out with the staff sergeant here in town the best approach to take for these community statements. Myself personally, when we wrote the letter, we're no different than any other municipality. We're all seeing the same thing, and we're getting a little tired of it, and it's going to come to a powder keg here pretty soon within our community. And I brought it up before that we're seeing the same criminals, but their charges are going up. And now they're almost always attached with a firearm charge. So no matter what has not been working by releasing them, they're still committing the same crimes. They're still selling the same drugs. The only thing now is that they're carrying loaded weapons. And if the Justice Department of the province wants to hide behind some federal laws or blame it on the feds, when we know the best approach is to fix it yourself. Waiting for another level of government to fix the problem for you is never a good solution. Some of the things he talks about are good. The extra police officers, the more money you put into mental health, that's all good, fine and dandy. But that doesn't help with a neighbor, a 65-year-old lady living by herself that beside a house that just got busted for a meth lab, and there's guns in that house. That doesn't fix her problems. So the impact statement should be coming from her, or it comes from a member of council. It comes from somebody in our community that is impacted. I know that we all are. So we are going to use this impact statement. We're going to get on it, and we're going to use it to the best of our ability. I'll guarantee you that. And again, I'm looking forward to working with the Councillor Warwa on this letter that we're going to send back. And I'm sure that it's going to be well written, and it's going to point out that there is homemade solutions that can be done in this province instead of skirting around the issue and telling us we need to wait for the federal government to wake up. So is there anybody else that would like to go ahead, Councillor Warwa?
And one of the things I just kind of wanted to mention is this is one of the things that I'm trying to find out who would have the final jurisdiction on it. But there is ability right now for some removal of basically like prohibition orders for because we're concerned about the fact that now these charges are escalating and they're including weapons. And there is an ability right now, even within the RCMP, to go in and have some of these removals. And so, I mean, I think that has to be a key focus, because we're looking at the fact that we're watching something line up and stack up. And I mean, the foreshadowing's there, it's escalating, and there has to be some preventative measures beyond even just the, what they're doing when they're catching them, but what else is available. So I think that's another part of the focus of our letter that we need to look at.
Okay. I'll let you all know that we're not going to wait until the next ledge meeting. Director Rowe and myself, once we get some more information on this community impact statement, we'll be emailing you with the first. So we're not going to wait 2 weeks and then let you wonder, or wait, what was our best plan. We're going to get the information to you as quickly as you can, so that moving forward by the next meeting, we may be able to take some steps regarding this. So, okay, all those in favor to receive and file this letter? Good, thank you. Thank you, Phil. That was a good job. Next up is our monthly cash statement, and Mr. Paul Casey will be taking over, the money guy.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is the monthly cash statement for the month ended January 31st, 2021. We began the month with $8,439,721. We ended the month with $7,926,327. A net draw of $513,394. The major sources of cash during the month were basically ATCO franchise fees of $144,514, and our regular property tax pre-authorized payment plan of about $270,000. Our major uses of cash were the final quarter RCMP contract for $281,311. Holdback for our capital works paid out of $118,043. Payment for some engineering on Southeast 17 of $54,430. Utilities of $89,479, and water for $79,874. Like I said, we ended the month with $7,926,327, of which $5.3 million of that is in our treasury account, our regular operating account, and $2.6 million of that is in a high interest savings account, which currently is earning us a wonderful interest rate of 0.2%.
Whoa. Well, we can afford one party hat out of that.
We will be
Okay.
changing.
Anybody have any questions? What was that, Paul? Sorry.
I said we'll be moving to a different high interest savings account. AUMA's come up with a different provider. They've moved from CIBC to Canadian Western Bank for 0.8% is what we'll be getting going forward once we make the move. So.
Well, any question, or first of all, like a motion to receive this financial statement, Councillor Brojak. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carry. And you're going again, Paul.
Yes, next I have several council requests for council decisions. The first one is to approve a transfer to the carry forward operating reserve for use in 2021. Operating funds have been set aside in the carry forward operating reserve as part of the 2020 year-end process. In 2020, the town budgeted $10,000 as an incentive payment to physicians. The budget also included a recovery of $4,000 from the county for incentives paid to physicians by the town. The net cost to the town as a result is $6,000. No payment was made in 2020, and therefore the net unexpended funds of $6,000 will be transferred to the carry forward operating reserve to offset costs of incentives paid, if any, in 2021. The financial implications are an expenditure of $6,000 will be recorded in the 2020 financial records to transfer unexpended funds to the carry forward operating reserve for use in 2021 or future years. And the recommendation is town council approve the transfer of $6,000 to the carry forward operating reserve for the net unexpended funds for the physician recruitment to offset costs for physician recruitments in 2021 or future years.
Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Waters. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Carry.
The second one, the second one is a transfer to capital reserves, and the background is capital funds have been set aside in the capital reserve parks as part of the 2020 year-end process. These transfers from the operating fund to the capital reserve fund per parks were not budgeted and therefore require council approval. The addition of these funds to reserves will allow council to include these funds in future year's budget for the designated purposes. The parks trust reserve for funds from rental of the boulevard space for signage of $500. Our recommendation is that town council authorize a transfer of $500 from the operating fund to the capital reserve parks for the year ended December 30, 2020, and further that all future proceeds received for rentals of boulevard space for signage be transferred to the capital reserve parks.
Councillor Barry, you'd like to make that motion for the recommendation? Seeing nobody wants to make a comment, all those in favor? Gary.
Okay, and then the next one is to approve a transfer to the library operating reserve. Again, operating funds have been set aside in the library operating reserve as part of the 2020 year-end process. In 2020, the town budgeted $250,000 as its contribution towards the operations of the Vegreville Library. As a result of the impact of COVID-19 on library operations, the library's net operating costs were $176,881, resulting in unexpended funds of $73,119. As in prior years, unexpended funds for library operations are transferred to an operating reserve for the library for future years. Financial implications is an expenditure of $73,119 will be recorded in the 2020 financial records to transfer unexpended funds to the library operating reserve for use in 2021 or future years. And the recommendation is town council approve the transfer of $73,119 to the library operating reserve for the net unexpended funds for library operations in 2020 for use in 2021 or future years.
Motion for the recommendation. Councillor Warwa. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? You're getting off pretty easy here tonight, Mr. Casey.
So far.
This can be contentious, this next one.
This is a memo from Cliff Craig, Town Manager, dated February 22nd, related to Deputy Mayor appointment. At the organizational meeting held on October 23rd, 2017, Council decided that each councillor would serve as Deputy Mayor for a period of 4 months, twice in their 4-year term. Following the schedule presented at that organizational meeting, the next Deputy Mayor is to be Councillor Tina Warawa. Recommendation is that Councillor Tina Warawa be appointed Deputy Mayor for the term of February 23rd, 2021 to June 21st, 2021.
Okay, Councillor Rudick makes the motion. You guys want to start the discussion? Well, I'll start it. I'm looking forward. I've never had a bad deputy mayor yet. And I don't know if it's just because I'm lucky but I've never had anybody turn me down yet when I can't make a function or to help out when they need it. So looking for the same thing, Councillor Warwell. So, okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you.
The next item is a request for council decision, and the topic is to adopt the Town of Vegreville organizational chart effective February 22nd, 2021. The background is in December 2020, council had directed the town manager to redraft the communications coordinator position to include marketing responsibilities. A draft job description was discussed on January 11th, 2021, to which council requested that the position be upgraded to a managerial level. As a result of the council request, the communications coordinator position has been renamed to communications and marketing manager. The organization chart has been updated to incorporate this change. Communication strategy is the organizational chart will be accessible on the V shared company drive. And the recommendation is that town council adopt the organization chart as presented effective February 22nd, 2021.
Okay, I got a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Barry was on first on this one. So just so everybody knows, that's the only change on the org chart.
That's correct.
And anybody want to make a comment or everybody's? Now we just got to get this position filled. Is that what everybody wants to say? Okay, go ahead. I'll say it for you. Okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Next up, nice one.
Next up is the employee fraternization policy HR 4001-5.10. The proposal is to adopt the employee fraternization policy HR 4001-5.10. Background is the town of Vegreville is committed to providing and maintaining a workplace that ensures that all employees are treated with dignity and respect. This policy outlines the guidelines regarding employees forming personal relationships with each other. The goal is to protect the well-being of our employees and retain the professional working environment. The communication strategy is that all staff will be notified via email with a copy of policy HR 4001-5.10 attached to the email, and that the policy has been approved by council and is in effect. A copy of the policy will also be available in the shared drive accessible to all staff, and the recommendation is that town council approve the employee fraternization policy HR 4001-5.10.
Okay, I'll take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Waters, comments? Councillor Warwa, you had, did you get the changes in there that you wanted to see?
Yes, and I appreciate that. It was just a few wordage things, but I thought that they were definitely necessary. The only part I would like to reiterate is I agree with everything how it's set up, but I just for the record want to make sure that if we're looking at this, that we look at the overall employee policy, just on the section that I had brought up regarding where we specifically reference the texting, phone calls and whatnot. The only reason I say that is because when you add something into a policy, if it isn't in another policy, then there is an implication or a thought that goes forward that basically says that it only applies there. So I think we just have to review the other one and make sure that it's in both. I understand it's about excessive amounts, but the truth is that policy should be about what you're doing on work time, not about whether it is because it's a fraternizing on work time. That's my only thought. But other than that, thank you for the amendments.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the recommendation. But also, we're gonna have a follow-up. Mr. Casey, if you would just write that down, or Sandra, that we'd like a follow-up on that texting and stuff that's in our general policy, employee policy. So, Councilor Rudick?
So further to our conversation at our last legislative committee meeting, I do have just some lingering concern that we make sure that this policy is intended to protect our employees and make sure that our workspaces are professional and continue to be so. I just want to make sure that we are also ensuring that all staff are informed and educated about what this actually means. Because of course we all know that policy without explanation is meaningless. And so I just want to make sure that we're able to both inform our staff as well as be able to act on any concerns that they might have going forward. So I'm glad that we have this policy. A little bit contentious to have these conversations, but as a employer of choice with a large staff, we need to make sure that people are protected when they come to work every day. So thank you to administration for creating this document to ensure that we have that quality workspace.
So would you say you're okay with how they're going to roll this out to the employees and how they're going to make it accessible? Or is there something more that we should be doing?
I would suggest, I know that we talked about this a little bit, and there is the suggestion that the strategy will be notified to staff. I'm not certain that it would be immediately clear to everybody. Just sending an email with a copy of the policy would tell staff how it applies and what do they do if they feel like there is something that they need to act on in the future. This is a sensitive piece of information with a lot of different sensitive parts to it, and similar to the other policy that we discussed the other day, the employee manual talks about the expectation of employees and how they behave in the workplace and how they act when they're conducting their duties. I just think that HR involves more than sending out an email. So I appreciate that there is a strategy here. I think there might need to be more follow-up, and perhaps we don't have the time or the broadband or the bandwidth to be able to answer those questions. So maybe we need to direct staff to another location. So just flagging that as a potential area of concern or caution moving forward.
Okay, noted there. You're right. Just maybe it should be a discussion at the manager position to the employees or something, or at least someplace where there can be some feedback. Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate with the timing of COVID that the in-person meetings can't be scheduled right now. Because I think this is kind of what is needed, is maybe a department by department base of distributing a policy of this nature. It's unfortunate that our safety meetings and such that the town usually always had can't occur right now, which was usually a really good avenue to get information spread across the entire staff.
Well, we'll roll it out the way that we're looking at it right now, but then we'll try to do a follow-up, especially if there's any questions or from any departments or anything like that. We'll just try to stay on top of it. And it would be a very good one at a safety meeting or a chili cook-off. This would be quite the conversation, but again, I mean, in all seriousness, there is a lot of workplaces that aren't healthy, and without having something written and what the expectations are of everybody, it can go amok in a hurry. So we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully if there's any questions from the employees, that they'll bring them to at least the manager, and then admin can figure out how to handle that best. So, okay, is there any other comments? All those in favor? Carried.
The next item I have is bylaw number 02-2021. This bylaw number 02-2021 of the town of Vegreville, the province of Alberta, for the purpose of amending the temporary mandatory face covering bylaw 08-2020. Whereas pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, and any amendments thereto, A municipality may pass bylaws respecting the safety, health, and welfare of people and the protection of people and property. People, activities, and things in or near a public place or a place that is open to the public, and C, business activities and persons engaged in business. And whereas the town of Vegreville has established such procedures in the temporary mandatory face coverings bylaw 08-2020, and whereas the town of Vegreville wishes to amend bylaw 08-2020, now therefore the council of the town of Vegreville duly assembled and act as follows. That bylaw 08-2020 is amended as follows. 1.1 section 4.1 persons under the age of 2. 1.2 section 9.1. This bylaw comes into force on November 30th, 2020 and will remain in force until 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on June 30th, 2021. And 2, that this bylaw shall take effect on the date of the third and final reading, read for the first time this 22nd day of February, 2021.
Okay. So we'll need a motion for the extension of this bylaw. Councilor Lemko? I would like to add an amendment to this. Sandra?
We need a motion for first reading.
Then I can put an amendment out forward. Okay, well, Councilor Lemko has already made the motion for the first reading. Now can I offer an amendment? Okay. I would like to amend this first, the reading, and everything else is fine, the dates. But as soon as we are notified that the province will be removing their their law through the Emergency Health Act, that we take a look at this at the same time. As soon as the province announces that they will be removing the Emergency Health Act containing masking, that we convene for a meeting right away and make a decision on how we want to go. Would you be okay with that, Councillor Lemko, that amendment in your motion for the first reading?
Yes, I would, Your Worship.
Okay. Councillor Rudick.
Can I ask for clarification if you have a specific time frame? You're saying as soon as, is that specific enough in an amendment like this? To Sandra, maybe to suggest.
What we're seeing up to now is that the province has given dates on lifting restrictions. So if everything is going good by March the 2nd, then this will be removed, this restriction. So when we receive notice of this, and it has to do with the Emergency Health Act about masking, that would automatically kick it in, that we would now bring this back to the table and have another discussion about where we want to be with our own bylaw. Sandra?
I'm sorry, Your Worship. I'm just unsure. I actually would have to have that added onto the bylaw. So it's with the bylaw, you're not making a motion. I'd have to make it an actual section of the bylaw. I'm wondering if we couldn't flag this as an administrative action item, that when the province drops or changes their masking restriction, that administration brings this particular bylaw back to council immediately for their discussion.
Does anybody actually hate that idea, or everybody's okay with that? Councilor Barry.
Yeah, I was going to point out that I didn't think we could make an amendment because I'd like to make two amendments, one on face shields and one on neck scarves, which I don't think are appropriate at all. But the aspect is in our discussions that we had the other day on this, the thought of fellow councilors.
We lost Councillor Barry there.
That we would continue something on with the town. So my point is if we were looking at eliminating this, why are we extending it at all? Why don't we just come back and put it in if they take theirs off?
Councillor Warwa.
Sorry, just, I'm not sure if Councillor Barry's feed came in sooner than mine, but I did miss the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying that I've had some breakups here a couple of times. I don't understand why. But the situation is when we were discussing this earlier in the week, we were looking at having something in place if the provincial mandate was taken off. So I'm saying is if we're looking at canceling this and coming back to talk about it, why are we extending it at all? Why are we not just waiting for the provincial one to go off? Then we meet and decide if we need to put one back on.
Well, we basically, the last time we talked, it was on the straw vote that we were going to go ahead and extend it. But the more I think about it, without a trigger in this bylaw, the way it sets now, because when this bylaw was put together, the province didn't have anything in place. So all I'm saying, I don't mind where we're going right now, but we need to have a trigger that as soon as that the province is going to make a move on their masking policy, that we have that conversation. So if it's a red flag for admin, I'm okay with it. And there's common knowledge amongst us all that the moment that happens, we get notified that we are going to have this conversation again.
Well, that's what Sandra has suggested, and I would agree with it, that you flag this to say that we come back and decide if we're going to rescind it or not.
Yeah.
Because that would be the option. We put it in place until June the 30th. If we so wish, we immediately call back in and rescind it, or we leave it and let it go until June the 30th.
Okay, so the way that it is, okay, Councillor Warwa?
I mean, I think everyone knows how I feel about I'm not going to block anybody's, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I won't block majority. I'm sorry, but I'm just not finding the logic in this argument. If we're going to flag something and say that the minute that we find out from the province that they're taking it off, we have a flag set in place. We've already shown we can put something in place pretty quickly, because the last time we placed it in on a Tuesday, we had talked as a council, we had agreed as a council that for the majority of people that we weren't putting anything through. We got a decision on Thursday. By Friday, we had a special meeting, and Monday we had it in place. We've more than shown we can put it in quick. So why would we extend a motion with a flag attached to it to then say, we'll call us together at the point of the flag? Why would we not just have a flag, let it run out, which it's about to, not create any additional administrative burden, and flag that when we get notification, we will come together as a group like we're all agreeing to do here and put it back in place if needed. I feel like we're doing it a little bit backwards to say we're going to let something, we're going to reinstate it and extend it and then flag to remove it. It's running out anyways. Why would we not let it run out and flag and come back in? You know how I sit on the bylaw, but I just don't think procedurally it makes any sense to say extend something with a flag for removal. Why not we let it run out and flag the minute they say they're taking it off and put it back on if needed?
Well, basically, we want to go ahead and extend it. We've already sort of figured that's what we want to do. But we don't know exactly what the situation is going to be the day that in this municipality, the day that the government of Alberta removes their masking bylaw. So to have it in place already and then to have that discussion, that's all I'm asking for, is that as soon as we know and we take a better look at where we're at as a community, because before, like I said, waiting for the province to make decisions for this community was not working for us, the majority of us. So, Councillor Waters.
So we came together and we did the masking bylaw because there wasn't one and it was unfair and unsafe to our residents. People were coming from other communities because we didn't have the masking bylaw. So we did the right thing. We're protecting our citizens. Right now, the provincial mandates trump us. So we have to follow the provincial guidelines. So what we have right now, we're kind of doubling up. So basically there, Mayor McPhee, you're saying if the province, let's say March 2nd, decides that they're going to take off the masking mandates, we're going to come together and see where we're at with our numbers in this area kind of thing, like, and have that discussion if we want to continue with the bylaw as it is or rescind it at that time.
I think that no matter what, right now people aren't flocking here because they don't have to wear a mask. But no matter what, I just want to be able to make the right decision at the right time for our community. I mean, the province go ahead and make their own. That's fine. But we felt before they weren't doing it and that we were seeing an influx of people were leaving other communities and coming here because the COVID was more prevalent there. So we did what we did, and I'm not against extending it. All I want is to have that as soon as that the provinces talks about theirs, that we go ahead and have our conversation based on what we know in our community. Councillor Barry, you want to say something again?
I was just going to say, I would not suspect that the government would say as of midnight tonight, we're taking it off. They usually do things by saying, you know, as of midnight Monday, it's going to come off. So there's usually a bit of a warning. I mean, I'm still in favor of saying that the province has something in place. They're the ones that are to do that. And we don't really need one.
And again, I respect your opinion. I know it hasn't changed and Councillor Rose hasn't changed, but hey, Councillor Lemko?
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that we extend the bylaw and then we rescind it if the requirement meets our needs in our community versus scrambling to put it into place if the requirements meet our community. We full know how the government operates. We decided to pull the plug on the arena and minor hockey, and only 2 days later, they changed the rules as to allowing hockey to be played. So I'm comfortable with the bylaw being extended and then rescinding if the need be, rather than scrambling to put it back into place.
Okay, is there any other comments? Councillor Riddick?
I think procedurally, and this is why I asked these questions very specifically last time, our three options were to let it expire, extend, or revive at a future date. And I think for good governance, taking back our authority as our governors of our community is what we felt was important last time. And I think that us extending this deadline is actually indication of that. And if we need to change that decision in the future, I don't think it's a question about whether or not this council is able to work in a quick, nimble fashion, because I know that we can do that. It's more a case of making sure that we're making decisions that are understandable and clear for our citizens too. So I think that extending it makes the most sense. And if we need to rescind at a future date, we're able to do that.
Okay, Councillor Waters?
With Councillor Rudick saying the word our citizens to understand, and I feel that's very important as well, that we get that message out there. You have to follow the provincial guidelines. And if they were to take away the masking mandate, then they have to follow ours if it's still in place at that time. I do have calls, people are confused. They're thinking, okay, so our bylaw expires at the end of this month, we're done, we don't have to wear masks, and that's not the case. We have to make sure that education portion is out there as well, or information portion.
I do believe the way that the province has been sharing their updates and where their next motion or their next move will be by lessening the restrictions, that we're going to have at least a week, or a few days to have this conversation based on where we're at as a community at that time. And that's the only reason I'm saying it. I'm not trying to rewrite parliamentary procedures or anything. My mistake, by trying to introduce something as amendment into this. But the thing is, as long as we're all clear that the moment we hear that the province is rescinding the masking bylaw, we're going to have a conversation about where we're at as a community and what our needs are then. That's what I'm saying. So we'll take a vote on the first motion to extend the masking bylaw. So all those in favor? Carried. I need a motion for the second reading. Councillor Barry? You're making the motion for the second reading?
No, I'm saying that you called for in favor, you didn't call for opposed.
Oh, that's correct, sorry. Opposed to the motion for first reading. So we have note that Councillor Barry and Councillor Warner are opposed to that. Okay, we'll now need a motion for the second reading. Councillor Broadjack makes that motion. All those in favor? Carried. All those opposed? Please note the same two councillors, Barry and Rawar, were opposed. Thank you. I'll need a motion for unanimous consent. Councillor Waters makes that motion. All those in favor? We have a unanimous consent. Thank you. Now a motion for the third and final reading. Councillor Rudick makes that motion. All those in favor? Noted. All those opposed? Okay, you got that, Sandra? Thank you. Thank you all. And I appreciate the fact that everybody knows how this needs to work for this to go ahead. So thank you. That is all we have. Paul, were we going to get an update this meeting on where we were at with their taxes from the province?
I can give you one. We got an email today saying that the remaining amount of our property taxes from the province will be paid tomorrow.
Okay, there we go. Thank
And
you.
they actually sent us the documentation for the EFT transfer. So the 947,000 remaining should be in our account tomorrow sometime.
That'll really boost our collection rate.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you all. We're going to move on to council reports. And we are going to start with Councillor Waters.
Thank you. February 10th had the CALS AGM. Just one bit of a challenge there with the Head Start program. That's where they work with speech, sound production and that kind of thing. And with the mask, they're having issues because, as you can see, teaching speech and sound is very difficult with that. They tried the face shields. They just felt they weren't safe enough. They're going to try the clear plastic. I don't know if they're plastic or what, but the clear masks and see if that can help. So they're trying to work around with the difficult situation for a very worthy cause with the children with their speech and pronunciation. Another thing, the Sign Val Sweeting Jersey raffle is still on. There's been over 100 tickets sold. Draw date is March 17th, so still time to get your tickets. It is on the CALS Facebook page for information on how to get your tickets there. So please help us out there. On February 11th, the Chamber AGM, guest speaker, Conservative Shadow Minister, Finance MP Pierre Polivier. Very good speaker, very informative. The Chamber was really good to get him there for us. And then I had on February 11th, the MD Foundation. The COVID-19 outbreak status was lifted January 28th, so the residents can go on essential outings. So it's still kind of restricted, but not as much. They can still go out now. There are designated visitors allowed and activities are back on. So I'm sure they're happy there, a little more morale boosting with that. And then on the 16th, I had the legislative meeting. On the 17th, AUMA Zoom on policing, a lot of information there. It's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be interesting to see where things go out with our police service here in Alberta. On the 18th, sat in on the Brownlee Emerging Trends, full day of speakers. And again, a lot of good information there. And it was a good webinar on that one. And tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much. And I liked one of the comments. Well, most of you are on the Brownlee seminar. I think it was Council Rudy that made comment that Mayor McPhee and Council Warwell were probably getting wore out by the digging, the questions you all had of each other. But it was nice to see everybody was engaged. So, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. On February 10th, I had Covenant Health Rural Town Hall webinar. It was very interesting, very informative, actually. I got quite a bit out of it there concerning health across the province and how it's run in the COVID world. On the 11th, I was also MD Minburn Foundation. And on the 11th as well, the chamber meeting. And yes, the guest speaker was very excellent. I thought that was a very well done meeting through Zoom. It was enjoyable. Ledge on the February 16th. The AUMA President Summit on the 17th. Again there, a lot of information and a lot of it rather concerning as to just why the province is thinking about going different directions and not just supporting the RCMP. The amounts of money, in my opinion, that they're throwing at this to review it would probably, as you have already said, Your Worship, been better spent in the justice system. If we had more attorneys, more prosecutors, more sentencing, and keep them there. But I'm also very concerned that the federal government is in the process of having eliminated mandatory sentencing for drug offenses and gun offenses, which means that we've just gone backwards even further if we want to try and keep the revolving door closed, because those types of incidents that are occurring within our own neighborhood, they'll just be put right back out because the judges now have more discretion. That's the way they worded it. It just means that they can say, go home, we're done with you, we're over. I think it's very frustrating on that whole thing. And we'll have to just see where things are going. On February the 18th, the Brownlee Emergency Trends, I thought that was also excellent. There were some really good, informative speakers on there. And being former fisheries, I kind of thought Mr. King's presentation was extremely well done. And I hope that councillors across the province recognized and realized just how important it is to conserve and save our waterways. And then tonight's council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warwalla.
Okay, I was a little lighter this time. I was lucky to still get to see the chamber, even though I was offline for it. But one of the things I was just going to mention, of course, the guest speaker was really, really good. But also, you know, Zoom meetings are really hard to keep people engaged. And I think that obviously he did a great job, but I would commend, you know, the asset that we have in both Jameson and Michelle. I think they bring kind of always an energy and a little bit of a friendly banter back and forth. So I think it was really well done. The February 16th legislative meeting. Unfortunately, we did have to cancel our FCSS meeting. A number of us were unavailable that specific day, so that will be rescheduled. And then I had tonight's council meetings. Mine was not terrible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudy.
Thank you, Your Worship. A lot of the same meetings that my colleagues did. I'll just mention the ones that are different. So February 12th and 19th, we had the first of three Fridays warming up the family clinic and making sure that the physicians and the staff there feel the appreciation from the Physician and Health Professionals Attraction Retention Committee. So they've had lunch delivered on Fridays. just to make sure that they know that we're thinking of them and the community supports them. So that was well received, much appreciated, and they'll be warmed up again this Friday again. February 17th, Towards Parity National Working Group Retrospective. So this is in my role as an FCM representative. I've been the governance representative on the Towards Parity, which is encouraging specifically women to run, win, and lead in municipal government, and ensuring that people put their names forward. They continue to run and continue to stay in municipal government positions. And this is particularly challenging during COVID times because we're more disconnected in some senses and more connected in others. So this is the wrapping up of this particular initiative, and a good opportunity to take a look. There's a few provinces that are having municipal elections in 2021. So we want to put into practice encouraging potential candidates. And so I just would ask each of us here to think about who else might be a good candidate coming up to the elections this fall, and making sure that whether or not we all decide to run again, making sure that there's a good, vibrant group of candidates. The policing webinar on February 17th, again, some very alarming statistics about the potential cost implications of changing our policing services. I think it can be very clear that community safety is something that we all talk about. Some of us have faced some thefts ourselves personally. I know that we've had several times where our welding equipment has been stolen, and it's been very personally confronting and expensive, as well as upsetting. And that's not even delving into the personal safety part of the crime index that we talk about. But I think that the province has come up with a suggestion that is the wrong tool to fix the problem that we have. And there's a very multifaceted concern about prevention of crime, the social determinants of health, which all stem from poverty, and some of the resulting social impacts with drug use and all of the resulting social challenges. So I think it's a complex issue, and I would encourage us to educate our public and make sure that public are fully aware of what's being suggested, and that there are things that we can do to improve some of the outcomes. But I'm not certain that we would be well served by spending more for an unknown police service that would not serve our citizens well. The Brownlee Emerging Trends workshop, again, lots of valuable information, and I do apologize to those that weren't in attendance that day, because all of the counselors that were there were having lots of conversation. There was lots of good information there. And again, there are some things about being virtual that allows us to be able to attend and hear things that we don't always get to hear. And to Councillor Berry's point, I think maybe if we can bring back to a future discussion the conversation about protecting waterways, we might need to have that conversation again as a council. And this morning had a FCM Alberta board member prep meeting. So we've got our quarterly board meetings that were supposed to be in Prince George, middle of March, will be all virtual again online. So this morning, the Alberta board members met and discussed some of the issues that we're talking about in each of our communities. And to the point, I just want to specifically thank His Worship and Director Rowe this morning for your talk of the town. I think what's being felt across the province, and even in these conversations with policing and some of the conversations with both RMA and AUMA, regardless of the size of the community, people are getting tired, they're getting ornery, and it's really important that we maintain a message of hope. Things are going to get better, and things are starting to get better. And I appreciate the message this morning to our citizens on the radio, just making sure that we're all literally trying to do our best, and that we are patient and we are kind with each other. And that's the message that we want to just keep making sure that we're bringing forward to each of our communities. We're all getting tired. It's hard to be a leader at any time, and it's particularly difficult when it's a tough time for people, and people aren't necessarily calling us with happy news. So just thank you to each of you that are doing your good work as municipal leaders, and keep up the good work. And on Wednesday for anti-bullying, or making sure that we're protecting each other too, and being positive role models. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Brodziak.
Okay, much of the same as my fellow councillors on February 11th, the Chamber of Commerce AGM. Again, I want to reiterate the same thing that the councillors all mentioned about our dynamic speaker, Pierre Poilievre. especially that he had changed portfolios, going from finance critic to the jobs critic. On February 16th, legislative committee meeting, February 18th, the Brownlee emerging trends. And I have to say also that Councillor King was also my favorite speaker on February 22nd, or today's council meeting. And also anytime that I have a chance to speak on policing, I like to put in my 2 cents. I'm very happy with our RCMP contract, and I don't believe that the province, I don't believe we would be further ahead by having our own police or provincial police force. But what I am concerned with still and always about the police, a more equitable police funding model. Right now, we have an agreement with the province. We have to follow the police funding regulation, which regulates that communities over 5,000 have to pay for their own policing. So again, I don't feel that that is an equitable police funding model. We're a small community of 5,700 people, very comparable with the town of Vermilion. And the town of Vermilion, it's recently been announced that the province will be building infrastructure, so a police station in Vermilion at the cost the province will pay for it. Town of Vegreville, we just recently built our own police station, and we had to fund it through our taxpayers through a 30-year debenture of $6 million. So I don't feel that that's fair, and I always like to mention that. I would definitely like to see a more equitable police funding model, as opposed to looking into changing a police force. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship. February 9th, I had a Zoom call with the committee set up to look at the possibility of ways to appreciate our frontline workers. And just let you know that that is going forward as we speak. February 11th, I attended the Chamber of Commerce AGM. It was very enlightening, a very good meeting. I found lots of interesting discussion there by the guest speaker. The ledge meeting on the 16th, February 17th, the library board meeting, and some of the items, a lot of the things on library board right now is it's that cycle of time when you have to redo your bylaws and your policies. So a lot of discussion by the board is spent doing that. And we talked about earlier about the letter that was being submitted to the MLA and looking for support. So that was a topic of discussion, and the manager's annual report that she has to submit to the province. So that was on the docket. So the February 18th, Brownlee's Emerging Trends Municipal Law. I also found Mr. King's presentation on watercourse and drainage very informative and interesting to see. And although I'm not a fisheries biologist, I certainly love fishing on the watercourse and drainage spots to catch some of those fish that Mr. Berry kept in the lakes. And tonight's council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So I too was on the Zoom meeting with the Chamber's AGM and got to swear in their new executive. And I really thought MP Pierre Pauliette was a very good speaker. I love watching him in the House. He has a different approach to making people look silly or trying to own the truth, but I do appreciate it for sure. The same day, I had myself and Cliff, we had an update with the hemp fiber processing company that's looking to move to Vegreville, and they gave us lots of good news, and we're hoping that the next little while we're going to get to release some of that news, and they're finishing up on their raising some money for their project. So at the LEDS meeting, I had the John S. Patuque Water Commission meeting on the 11th, the LEDS meeting on the 16th, the second part of AUMA's President's Summit on policing. And I too really do believe it's a waste of money, and way that they're taking. I know their approach is to try to teach Ottawa a lesson, and we're going to see it in the pension plan again here pretty soon, where they keep threatening Ottawa with these moves that we may make because it would end up costing the rest of the country more money if Alberta pulled out of the RCMP agreement. If Alberta pulled out of the pension plan, the rest of the country would be stuck holding our share because we're already offsetting their costs as Albertans. But I don't really think there's anything going to come of it, really, because of the policing model itself would be so hard to implement from what we have now. So I did the talk of the town with Director Rowe. We taped that last week. And it was nice to get the message out to people that we are moving forward. And there's so many projects that are going to be happening in this town this summer coming up. It's going to be amazing. People will be complaining about the trucks and the equipment that are going to be rolling down our streets, and all the pylons are going to have to go by. But it was nice to get back on the radio. I haven't talked on the radio for a while. And of course, Jameson always does a good job of helping us get our point across as a municipality. So, and then we had tonight's council meeting. So, does anybody have anything else they want to bring up before we go into a closed session? Okay, so I would now take a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Councillor Barry. I was getting hung out there. I was like, wow. So we'll adjourn this meeting, not adjourn.